Hello and welcome to another video on this channel. Since posting the video yesterday, I continue to get questions concerning the order in which DS260s are processed. There seems to be two schools. There are those who think that DS260s are always processed according to date of submission. And then there are others who think that the forms are processed according to case numbers. And so in this video, I will be answering that question. But before I do, there is an important issue that I would also like to address. And so let's go into it. So in the diversity visa program, are DS260s processed according to case numbers or according to date of submission? Now, as I said, before answering that question, let me address this issue. Amongst the reasons why cases are not scheduled for interview, the processing of DS260 is among the least, if not the least. A DS260 in itself does not take much time to be processed. There are a few instances when the processing of DS260 is delayed. The first of those instances is when there is a backlog. Usually when the diversity visa lottery results are released in the month of May, immediately after the release, you have many applicants who submit their DS260. And in that instance, there's a heap of DS260 at KCC, and it takes time for all of them to be processed. And so such an instance could delay the processing of your DS260. Another instance when your DS260 could be prevented from being processed fast is when your case is not the usual case. There are two examples of that. Firstly, in case your case has many applicants in it, it's going to take some time for all of those DS260s in that case to be processed because each one of them has to be processed. In such a case, the processing of all of those DS260s will take longer time than if, for example, there was only a single applicant in that case. The second example is when the applicants in the case have an extensive history. For example, in case you have worked in many different places, lived in many different places, traveled to many different places, it's going to take a lot of time for background checks to be conducted concerning the various pieces of information that you included in your DS260. And so such instances will delay the processing of your DS260. Another instance when your DS260 may not be processed is in case you just submitted it. We are heading toward the end of December, and so in case you submit your DS260 now, it is not certain that your DS260 will be processed in time before the next visa bulletin is published in January in order for you to receive your interview notification. So it is in such instances that the processing of DS260 is delayed or may not be ready in time for your interview to be scheduled. The processing of your DS260 is like the least reason why your interview has not yet been scheduled. And so you should not spend much time wondering concerning the order in which DS260s are processed. I think your concern should be whether your DS260 has been processed or not. And in a recent video, we said, in case you do not know and you wish to know whether your form has been processed, you can simply write to KCC and they will situate you concerning the status of your diversity visa case. Now, to answer the question whether DS260s are processed according to case number or according to date of submission, the answer to that question is DS260s are processed according to necessity. They are not always processed according to case number, and they are not always processed according to date of submission. I said earlier, and most of you are aware, that right after the diversity visa lottery results are released, many applicants submit their DS-260. At that point, you have DS-260s that are submitted for applicants that will be interviewed at different points during the fiscal year. For some, more than a year later. And then there are those who submit their DS-260s and their interview will be conducted at the beginning of the fiscal year in October. And those interviews concern the lowest case numbers in each region. And so at that point, KCC will not focus on the date of submission to process DS-260s, because if they do that, they will be processing cases that will not be scheduled for interview perhaps for several months. They will rather focus on case number, processing the DS-260s of the lowest case numbers, because it is those case numbers that should be ready to receive their interview right after the visa bulletin is released in the month of August. So why focus on date of submission at that point? Now, as the fiscal year goes on and the pressure to prepare the lowest case numbers for an October or say November interview no longer exists on KCC, but their focus at that time is to reduce the backlog that was created since the month of May after the results were released, then KCC could now turn to date of submission to process DS-260s, because at that point, the lowest case numbers are no longer a priority. The priority at that point is to get rid of the backlog that was created, and so KCC could decide to use the date of submission or any other method for that matter to get that done. So you see that DS-260s are not always processed according to date of submission, and they are not always processed according to case number. Instead, as I said, they are processed according to necessity, using the method that is appropriate at that moment. And so that is it. Now, do not forget what I said. In case you would like to know the status of your diversity visa case, simply write to KCC and they will situate you. And in addition to that, do not use your time wondering on the order in which DS-260s are being processed. Your focus should be whether your DS-260 has been processed or not. And so that is it. That is how it is when it comes to the processing of DS-260s in the diversity visa program, which brings us to the end of today's discussion. Thanks for watching the video. If this channel continues to be of help to you in your diversity visa application process, then you are welcome to make your voluntary donation by going to the channel homepage and clicking on the Donate Here button at your upper right hand corner. And I will see you, God willing, in the next video. Until then, goodbye.